Hi, Dan Paulson here. I got a message from a friend of mine, Bernie, asking me three questions. One about tarot, one about reincarnation, and one about the Ethiopian Bible. And I just wanted to make this video in response to him. I told him, hey, I'll just make you a video on it. The first question was, here we go. How do you feel about tarot, and have you explored it? This will be a fun one. I've actually had somebody do tarot readings for me before, but it'll surprise you. It's my wife. She has about 30 different decks of tarot cards. She's not really into it, though. She likes the artwork and things like that. She came from a place that was very conservative, and she's exploring life and seeing fun new things. So she's not, Madam Miss Tarot Reader or anything like that. But I remember it was pretty benign, stuff. It's all just kind of fun things. I don't have a problem with people doing it. So here's the issue that I have. This is a difficult one because some people are like all about it, and some people are like, get rid of it. And there's something that is actually going on, but it's very faint, that I believe that makes it desirable for people. Okay, so first of all, if you've heard me talk before about how I think that this sixth sense is natural, that we're in that we are in a field together, that humans together create a field. Each person has one on their own, a small one, but when we get together, there's a large field that we're all creating together, and that is an emotional field that we can sense very lightly, danger, joy, things like that. That would be the primary thing that is in place. And that if you've sensed something that's danger, it would almost be to try to relate it like this. Like if you're, like this sense is sitting there, pretend like this emotional sensation for a moment has converted into, we're going to adjust, it's down for maintenance. So we're going to shift it and put it into the sound range for a short period of time. So now this emotional sensation that you normally get is going to come in the form of sound. Okay, now throughout the day, you're getting things like, what is that? Somebody will come along and hear it. Hello. And everybody else will be like, it's like, what is, there's something there. That's a weird thing, but it's like there's something that's super, super faint, and people can pick up on it, but they're not quite sure what it is. So it's like this, chills up my spine, tingly, magical, something is out there, spirits are roaming, connecting sort of thing going on, and your mind goes crazy when it's like, no, this is your central nervous system picking up an emotional feeling of fear or something like that. Okay, that within that field, we get more things happening. I tell my story about my clairvoyance as a child, hearing very deliberately, Larry's dead, viscerally, stopping me in my tracks as a 9-year-old before I found my brother in the woods, who was alone by himself. It was only his mind, the cosmos, and my mind that were involved in this mental transaction. So you go, what is that magic? And I think that that's natural. I think that that is that fear mechanism in place. However, in this case, my brain is advanced enough, even as a 9-year-old, to understand death. I know life, death. I know Larry. Larry's dead came from my own brain, not from the cosmos, not from spirits. It was the knowledge of knowing within that collective field that he was gone, because he was reaching out to me. And that when my mind was in the right place, I could hear it. But if it's not, if I never, stopped and paused and reached for the doorknob or did the certain things, there might not have been the moment where that came to my mind. So you look at that and think it's magical or whatnot, but I really don't think it is. And I think that is what's going on in the background. And I think that everybody feels and senses that, and that some people just deny it. They're not very good at it, or they call it coincidence. But other people are so caught up into it that suddenly people who are charlatans and money makers are telling them, I will read your tarot here, or I will help you understand. You sit down. Okay, I will read for you. Does anyone here know anybody who used to own a red shirt? Yes. Was it a man? Oh, was it a woman? Yes. Okay, I'm getting a woman. It's such bullshit. You watch that and go, what the hell are these people doing? But there are people out there that are so hurt, so afraid, so unknowing what is going on, that they're desperately looking for answers, that they will grab onto something like that and give money to those people, just like they will evangelicals going to church. It's the same thing. It really is the same mechanism in the mind of humans that are fearful and looking for answers and look for supernatural as opposed to what is real. Does that matter? For a human individual, it doesn't. For humanity, it does. Yeah, because humanity is making bad choices as a group. People believe in supernatural, that's fine. Groups believe in supernatural and start acting that way. Now we got problems. We do. That's not the proper thing for humanity. That's not where we come from. That's not where we're going. And we need to understand that to better operate where we are now, to better live our lives. But that's not going to happen. So ignorance is bliss. We evolve in incredible fear and desire of something. And that's what we have in the background right now, that incredible fear. So how do you circumvent that fear? You can either have knowledge or the idea that something else, that whatever is happening now is just momentary anyway. So that is really kind of so deep in humanity. I think that when you come up with the truth is never popular. Fantasy is. Okay. Having said that, that is what I think that is there, that there is something there, and that sometimes tarot reading or Ouija board or something somehow here or there, somebody can hit on something that you're like, oh my gosh, that was so spot on. But that's one thing out of many, 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 many things that are all wrong. It's like sometimes something gets through and you're like, interesting. But we're just working with a little field there that we try to put more into than is probably really there. I think a lot of people that get a lot out of it and can give a lot of details, those details are coming from their own mind, not from out there. Nobody else can see that. Where does it occur? All right. Now, no, I'm not talking specifically about tarot here, but there's actually a number of mechanisms that are, things that people use that are for that have some sort of a hint of something. And I think that hint is definitely there. But it's that hint that I'm talking about, that we're playing with that field and just not understanding what it is. We don't get much out of it, just enough to keep us going, yeah, that's it right there. And we keep digging at it when it's just faint sensation being converted by our own incredibly complicated brains. Ever wake up from a dream and have to stop, and it takes you a few seconds sometimes to look around and breathe and go, oh my God, that was just a dream. I thought that was real. It is so viscerally real that it can be that way. Where did it happen? Either in a different dimension that you're dreaming in. That's happening in the brain that doesn't stop. Even though the body shuts down and sleeps, the brain keeps doing things, growing, little networks, things like that. When you're looking for answers, here's something that happens. Have you ever heard of the Akashic Records? This is this idea that you can tap into something out there. And if you look into it, that's actually a more recent teaching. It wasn't something from antiquity. But it does seem to be there. And there was a time I thought I was tapping into it because I was thinking, I'm looking for answers in this material, and you would look at it and go, I can't get this. A couple days later, you're looking at it going, oh, I get it. It's like my mind is tapping into something and pulling this from somewhere. And that's my initial thinking. Later on, I realized, what's happening is that the desire to know something that I don't know yet is causing my neural pathways to grow in that direction. So I'm learning what I want to learn. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open. That's what's really happening. It's not magic. It's a desire to know something. Your brain goes and finds it, looks for it. That's the Akashic Records. It's not an Akashic Records. It is knowledge available to all of us. It's reality that we're trying to tap into. You just have to have the brain that's going to allow it to come in. A lot of this other stuff, too, this would probably happen a lot more often, except that our conscious mind has to be quiet. It has to be in a receive mode. As long as it's thinking and scattered and processing and wondering about this and thinking about that and worrying about that, it is in transmit mode. It could have all kinds of stuff coming at you that you'll never see it. Because why? Because there's a mote in the eye, as Jesus would say. There's a massive stuff that we're living through that is this confused stuff that we can't see. We're filtering our perceptions of what we take in consciously through those old perceptions. If we don't know that and we haven't corrected and rectified them, then we don't see life properly. We see it through our past experience and hurt. Being quiet, having a quiet mind is so difficult. They're teaching back then to fast as to the world, slow down. They would look at us today and go, you guys will never get it. You don't slow down enough. You'll never hear anything. You don't shut up and listen. Mentally, it's really important to take time on your own throughout the day when you have time to ponder and try to put yourself someplace. Try to imagine being an evolving hominid millions of years ago and what your life is like. You are naked. You don't own anything except for what you are carrying. These are your possessions. You walk and you move. You migrate. You live in groups. You eventually learn to make little shelters from holding leaves over your heads and things like that. This is your life. You're looking for food and you're looking for things coming after you. That's it. Life is simple. Survive, find a way to eat, and find a way to not be eaten. This is life. This is life. Day by day by day, we evolve to function and do a really good job with that. We made it. We made it. Humans got there. I forgot to mention, there's a huge desire and there's a huge drive for a baby engine in this group as well. Produce, produce, produce. You can see phallic symbols all throughout history. Produce, produce, produce. Life was hard. You want to survive? Not very many kids make it. Produce, produce, produce. So that was a part of it as well. And of course, the reason I say that is we can still see that in the population today, given different reasons for it to be there. But it is produce, produce, produce. Then time goes by and we forget that and things become complicated. Now, instead of sitting there for 8 hours a day looking for grubs and watching for lions, we're going, I wonder if my taxes are done. I got to get the grass mowed. I'm out of gas almost. The boss is pissed off at me. I don't know what I want to do for dinner tonight. This stuff goes on and on and on that they would never be doing. We're using a mechanism in place, and we've got it jammed full of life today that we don't recognize. That's why we need to fast this to the world and why it doesn't work. And when we're trying to use these mechanisms to tap into it, every once in a while you get a hint of something that goes through that makes somebody go, oh my God, it worked. It worked. It wasn't a coincidence. And people will say it was. It doesn't have to be a coincidence. Me saying Larry's dead, I felt that viscerally. I could look at that and go, I know what a coincidence is. A 9-year-old sensing and feeling that and doing that at that moment in time was not a coincidence. That was an experience I had. The question as a kid, I'm thinking magic, miracle, something, I don't know what. But I didn't know what. I didn't take any, people tell you what it is. At some point, you want to know what that is. And you find a way to explain it naturally. You want to work with it. And certainly that's exactly what happens when you get rid of those memories, you clear things out, all of a sudden things become more clear. You've got all those other issues resolved. Your mind is now, I won't say laser focused. It's actually freed up. It's, I'm at peace. Everything is okay. Things can come into my mind now because I'm not, my consciousness isn't full of thinking that's preventing me from hearing. As long as you're actively thinking to yourself, it's like self-talk. When that quits, then you're listening. The things that you will observe happening are things that you're not aware of until after the fact. It'll be things like, I can't think of an example. Maybe you're standing outside looking out the back porch, and for some reason you decide to walk over to the right, and you go over there and look, and you see something that's, like trapped or leaking or, well, there's a problem right there. I never would have spotted that had I not come here. Things like that will begin to happen. You're just like, well, it's a good thing I did this, or it's a good thing I did that, or, that's kind of what I see happening. It's more and more where it's not coincidence. I think that there is something being driven. And I think that's how I feel about it. It's somebody that's just pondered this for hours and hours in solitude. You go, yeah, that's what you have to do. Be in solitude and get away. Then you hear things and things start coming more clear. So as far as tarot, it's like it could be a fun thing. I would never use it as a tool to try to find answers. I would use it as a fun thing to play with, like the Ouija board. Look it up here. Do you see right here? I got a Ouija board. I had it one time. People would just give me these odd gifts because I was like open to everything. I got up on my shelf. I've got the entire Mahabharata. I've got several Qurans. I've got Bibles. I've got Greek material. Yeah, I was into this whole thing. So people were like buying me all kinds of stuff like that, crystal ball and things like that. Fake ones, they're acrylic or whatever that are molded, but they're anyway, just kind of fun things to have like that. I don't have a tarot deck, but my wife does. So they're just indicators of what we're looking for, what answers are. And at the end of the day, I find that those are all little things. I think what's happening is that people are using those as sort of they're trying to find a conscious mechanism to tap into that field that's there. And that sometimes they can do it just enough to make them go, yeah, I did it. It's there. Quick, wait, we're onto something here. When they're really not realizing what they're working with. And that it would be much better if our lives were quiet and peaceful, that it would work much easier. And if we ourselves had resolved all of our issues, suddenly all of that stuff starts working by itself, and you don't need mechanisms. It just happens automatically. You don't have to read something from it. It's like this. You're using this to try and get something past your filters. If the filters aren't there, it'll come to you, as long as you're quiet and you need it. It's a mechanism. Well, no, okay. All right. Does that answer the question on tarot? I would never use tarot as a means to look for answers. I wouldn't. I would use it as a decoration and a means of recreation, perhaps. Never anything more than that. But even then, I don't have an interest in it. It's not. I mean, if my wife said, "Do you want another reading?" I'd be like, "No, that's okay." I got stuff I'm doing here. I don't need that. I don't feel the need for it. I don't look for it. My big concerns these days are why humanity is just so satisfied with not knowing what's really there, and why you can't get anyone's attention. It's very complicated, what's going on, and I think people are just not interested in the truth. They would rather live their life believing something different. It circumvents that fear. It does. Supernatural circumvents the fear of death. If you have the fear of death strong, the supernatural is going to be strong too. Okay, the next one says, do you believe in accidents or coincidence? I don't at the moment. It boils down to cause and effect and lack of awareness. Yeah, cause and effect is what there is. Accidents or coincidence is going to depend on how you look at it. We were talking about that a little bit. Sometimes things happen because they need to happen, and I mean, if a cop opens the door and finds the kid and saves him just before he's dead, is that an accident or a coincidence? What if that cop was like somewhere down the street on patrol someplace, supposed to be somewhere, but something inside of that cop said, I don't know why, but something gripped me. I left my place and I had to go do this. Then what? All right, be careful of stories like that. I just made that story up. What if? What I really use is for my own search is my own personal experience, not even anybody else's. I go with what I have experienced. It's a mystery, and I've talked to people about it who are curious about it, want to know that it was a clairvoyant thing. It looked like, to some people, a spiritual interaction. He was dead before you got there, and you're finding out, but yeah, something. And I just think that we're in that field, and that we can have that knowledge. If the time and the mind and everything is just right. How many people die and that doesn't happen to? So there's other factors. It's not just a matter of it works and it works all the time. So even if you were good at it, it's still like it's not an evolved mechanism to transmit high levels of intelligence, like communications and hearing, processing in that manner. It's more to transmit, I'm scared of you. I hate you. I love you. To send those feelings. That's what it's for. The added detail comes from our minds. We plug it in for ourselves because it helps us understand what's going on. We need to. I don't know how this equates to the cause and effect. how the things happen. But yeah. Okay. So, in instances like that, I would look at my brother's death again and say, well, was that, things happen from cause and effect, but does that mean that things are destined to happen? I don't think so. I think that we can interact along the way and make changes in some things. There are things we cannot change. I cannot change the fact that I am Caucasian, that I have, this personality type, that, my sexual preference is the way it is. That there's many things about me that I cannot change that I was born with. However, there are things after I was born that I was given that are a part of my mental processing. That right there, that is going to continue to allow cause and effect to happen. However, if you interrupt it, you can change the course of that cause and effect. I had this happen to me. It hurts. I'm angry. And because of it, every time I get triggered in life, I'm going to act it out. That's cause and effect in place right there with a mechanism that is in place that is malleable. So if we don't do anything with it, it's going to continue to go on until it, you might eventually, it might peter out over years. You get old and don't care anymore. Something, somehow, some way, your brain finally lets it go. But that is a cause and effect process that you're just allowing to happen if you are responding to life. Now, once you see that's what's happening and you begin to realize that my life is a continual residual process of my perceptions and my experiences, and that I can't change my experiences, but I can change my perceptions, which is called healing, which means changing the way that I'm holding those emotions. That changes the way that I work in that field. That is, you're changing cause and effect. Cause and effect is still going to happen, but it's going to be happening now based on some changes that you have put in, some frequency shifting that you've done along the way. Cycles are still going to happen. You just want to change what they are. You want them to, well, actually, if you find happiness, that's something that shouldn't be cyclical. It will be. But you're looking to make it so that happiness is there most of the time instead of a little bit of the time. We want to shift that way. Okay, so that's what I think about cause and effect and accidents and whatnot. There's a point in time, too, where there's just life going on. If I were to look at my brother's death and say it was based in cause and effect, but if I step back far enough and stop being Danny Paulson, Larry's brother, if I step back and become, the higher awareness and looking from the outside and observe from a larger take on what happened and look at the entire globe and all the things happening everywhere, what I see is a situation that's normal. I see a family that is through a lineage of abuse, through really kind of a Southern Baptist religious, but at the same time, spare the rod and spoil the child wasn't just, I'm going to swat you every time you mouth off to me. It was somebody going into a rage and whipping you until you were welted top to bottom, and then grab the next one and do it until it played out in them. There was something deeper going on, and that had been in place as part of the family line. We were next. We were going to be a part of that. We go to church. Larry is abused. He learns about heaven. He wants to go. He commits suicide. I don't think these are anything in place other than decisions that are being made at the time that are based in cause and effect, but you're just a part of it. I remember one time I thought I must be magic. I go on all these climbs with people that sometimes you don't know people, but you're up there in the mountains. It's a big deal. You talk about things. Sometimes it gets pretty intense about private lives and, what we're up here for. You're up in the mountains trying to So what did Sir Edmund Hillary say? It's not the mountains that we conquer, but ourselves. Yeah, that's it. You're up there doing that. I can remember coming off climbs and having people tell me later, hey, pull you off to the side. Man, you said some things I really needed to hear. I don't know how you knew that, but I was just listening to you, and it was, man, thank you. I don't know how you knew that. And I would be like, oh, wow. Yeah, it must be guided or something like that. And you know what you realize later on, that's just arrogant BS. What I'm doing is I'm freely talking about things that everybody needs to freely talk about. That's it. There's no magic other than saying, yeah, we all need to heal. And if you talk openly about it, people are going to listen and people are going to hate you and lash out. The people that are ready to heal are going to listen. The ones that have the same problems that aren't, they're the ones that are going to lash out at you. You know, if I'm living in an island country someplace and there's a tsunami, this is a natural action. The devastating, the terror, the global understanding, the tragedy of it all. But it's no different than on the scale of life for the cosmos than a volcano erupting into the sea and killing off a bunch of sponges and creatures that are down there. That it's life. It's the progression of life sometimes eats other life. And we're sitting here lucky not wanting to be a part of that. But at the end of the day, sometimes things just happen and that's a part of our existence. Anything could happen at any time that I think that is difficult to understand it all. There are other times, which is weird. I don't remember this guy's name. He was one of the guys that was on The Secret, the one that was doing the work with the NASA astronauts and athletes and things like that. I don't recall his name even. But I was listening to some material that he had one time, and he said he's got this airplane ticket up on in a frame on his office wall. It was a plane that he didn't make it in time, and I don't recall what plane it was. It's been some time now. It was in the Midwest. He was supposed to take a flight from there to California. He got there late. The plane was getting ready to take off. And he argued and fought with them to get on the plane. And they said, "I'm sorry, sir, you just got here too late. It's closed up. I have to give a seminar in California." "Sorry, sir, too bad." He's driving home wondering what to do and hears on the radio that the plane crashed right after takeoff. What happens in cases like that? Is that a coincidence? I have at times done things where I'm standing there going, "Oh my God, it's a good thing I did what I just did right there or I'd be gone," something. I've also crashed a motorcycle and been in the hospital, so, it kind of comes and goes. You look, oh, well. You ask yourself at the end of the day what you're looking for. And in all of the material, there is a goal. There is an end goal. And the end goal in all of them is to seek nirvana, the kingdom of heaven within, the kingdom of God. When you break it down to the template, it comes down to being released of the things that you grip on in life and finding a way to enjoy what you have, enjoy the life you have, and experience love while you have the opportunity that you know that you have the opportunity to have control over. That's what this is about, and that's what the goal is for, to remove the things that we have through life experiences unbeknownst to us, picked up along the way that interferes with that very process of just being free. It's normal for us to grow up and not have that. And then at some point in time, some people go, "Oh, yeah, I want to do this. I want to change my life. I don't want to wait. I want to do something different." I have another saying that I don't remember where it comes from. Everybody has two lives. And the second one starts the moment you realize you only have one life. That's what we're doing when we go on the path. You're going, "Oh, something, I'm disconnecting from normal physical life. I'm seeing something different here. I can let go of what everybody's grabbing onto and become somehow living in a place where I'm not caught up in that anymore." And it's a hard path to get there. It takes awareness, and it doesn't always feel very good because it takes work, and it's uncomfortable to get there. Sometimes when people tell you, you think too much, you need to just believe blah, blah, blah. That's an ignorance is bliss person right there, and you're just the opposite. You're I cannot do that. I am not happy unless I'm finding tangible answers. And then I realize I don't have the answers all yet, which means I'm not happy till I find tangible answers. That's what makes you seek and knock. When you're happy, you quit. And I've learned that I need to explain that better. From my perspective, the individual quit. From their perspective, they didn't. But what What I mean is that when somebody gives you a belief system that you operate within the parameters of, and you're thinking within those parameters, that's not really free thinking. That's only thinking within the box that somebody gave you. If you start thinking on your own, that box goes away. You're not in there anymore. So they are thinking on their own, but they're not thinking the way you think. It's not the same. They will tell you, of course I'm thinking. You look at it and go, take in many more data points first, then start thinking. You're not thinking with very much data. There's another incredibly visible but a very critical thing to consider here: open and closed-minded. Somebody that is thinking within that structure that they were given is also thinking with a closed mind. The reason that is said is because they're thinking within a box, they're floating things around, but they're doing so with a conviction of something that they never found. They have a belief that is in place, and the thinking is all oriented towards shoring up that belief. If somebody's seeking without a belief, then they are open-minded and they are receptive to all possible things. So there's a big difference between not only how much you think, but the way you think, whether you're thinking to try and prove your point or whether you're thinking to try and find what is there. Those are different. Anyway, cause and effect, that goes all over, doesn't it? Some of it is malleable, but what you're working at is your own brain, your own mind. And then when that happens, other things just begin happening naturally. You begin to see them and just enjoy them. You can't make them happen. You just smile and go, wow, it's magic, isn't it? No, you begin to realize that's what's happening. And you begin to recognize it. You know, there's no monsters under the bed anymore. You can crawl under there at night. What else did we have here? Does that make sense? The next one, reincarnation, yeah. What's your take on reincarnation? Asking for a friend here. Personally, I don't know and can only speculate. Okay, reincarnation is a very specific belief system. It has its roots apparently in Hinduism, and of course it's believed by Buddhists, and there's other religions, I think, that have this idea of some kind of a return. That is a natural thing for humans to do. As we talk about the fear of death, not wanting to die, wanting to come back. It is another form, actually, instead of the Abrahamic idea that your soul will go on, but you're only here one time, but you live forever. The idea in reincarnation, there isn't a heaven like that is an eternity forever. Reincarnation is the idea that when you die, the idea is that the body is just a vessel and that your soul goes on and is reincarnated into another body, into a new life. But that along the way, you're accumulating karma. You're accumulating deeds in life that create conditions in your next life. If you're a bad person now, then when you're reincarnated, you're going to have a bad life or be reincarnated into something bad. Good, you're working your way up through there. So that's the idea of reincarnation. Let me make sure I've explained it, because it can seem pretty goofy if you really think it through. The idea is that I'm living life and I've got a bunch of bad things happening, and I want to know why. And I'm being told because you've got something from your past lives that you're bringing with you. Your job is to go find what those are now and resolve them so that in your next iteration, they won't be problems anymore. So you're sent off looking for the issues from a past self when you don't have a memory of that whatsoever. And you can't have a memory of it whatsoever. So you're looking, that's the search. That'll keep you busy, won't it? Sure it will. Keep you busy looking for something that you never did. While all the time not understanding that what we're truly looking for is right here, right now. The past is what we are looking for, the past lives. But it's not the past lives of a physical human existence of a repeat. It is the past lives of the iterations of who and what we are in our life experiences. What I would ask right off the bat would be things like, how come the population keeps growing? Where are the extra souls coming from? Before humans were here, where were human souls? Are we did we start off as dinosaur souls? Is there a bunch out there still waiting for the population to grow? Before Earth was formed, where were all the souls? After the universe continues to expand and no longer is, and billions of years from now, trillions or whatever and begins to do something different, where are the souls going to be? There's a point where it all falls apart. The idea is really, you look at it and go, it's just to make you happy here and now. Actually, the belief is for the mind to live happy. But there's a basis to it. The healing path on the template is very specifically this, and it's covered in Abraham as well. It isn't called reincarnation, but I'm going to show you how it works. There is a path to turn inward, crossing the threshold. I got hurt. We had lives. How many things bother you? One thing or bunches of stuff? You go and resolve some big issue, and you live life going, I feel free of that, but I want to feel freer. Now time goes on, and there's something else that didn't bother me as much. That bothers me. I've got to do it again. So each time you're doing this, you are turning inward, crossing the threshold, healing something, and going through a what? A spiritual rebirth. Every time you go in and heal yourself, you're going through a spiritual rebirth. And that's going to happen over and over and over again. And you can call that reincarnation for the people that need to carry it on a template. Here, this is how it works. The person on the template knows this means keep turning inward and inward and inward until I've washed off all of those things and I've reached enlightenment this time. It's all word games. Think about it. What I am suffering from is from my past life. Yeah, past life that's happening during this lifetime, a past iteration of self, something that I'm now going, oh my God, what have I done? I am now paying the price for something that I have done in this life. However, it is being looked at as a past self because I'm now ready to get beyond it. So that was the old self. The new self wants to leave it behind. That is how it works now. Buddhism has reincarnation as part of the teaching. Yet in the Dhammapada, the core teaching of Buddha, he tells us in verse number 6 that everyone who knows that we must come to an end here, their quarrels cease at once. And before that, he's teaching us that we are products of our mental experiences. What does that tell us from Buddhism? That there isn't really a spirit that goes on and on and on, that we are actually products of our brain accumulation. And in this case, the reason I say that is because I just come to that by thinking about it as well, but not just listening to Buddha say it. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. It's founded on our thought. It's based on our thoughts. I can look back at my own life, and I know that when I was born, I don't remember it. When I was really an infant, I have no recollection. There's a point in time where I'm a kid, maybe 4 or 5 years old, where I just have these little tiny slivers of memories. Not until later on am I developed enough before I start really figuring things out. I could look and see that my life really didn't start until I learned enough things to be able to interface with the world that I was experiencing. It seems to me like I'm a product of my mental experiences, that my awareness comes from there. What happens when that brain goes away? Where does that accumulation go? Where does the electrochemical storage that creates who and what we are go to? You can believe what you want to believe. There's too many reasons that it falls apart. We can see this teaching actually, that there's a person I know that she's like a professional counselor, psychological, that sort of a thing, that I kind of hooked up with one time and talking about some things, and I got her convinced to allow me to come and I would set up an appointment with her, and then for, kind of probably at half the fee that she would normally charge, I would go in and talk to her, but she would let me talk. She understood what I was doing. It took a little bit of work to begin with, but I finally got her to understand, look, I'm on a path and I need to express things sometimes that I have nobody to express them to. I need you to just be that person that allows me. Please don't sit there and sit down and start asking me, when did this start? When did that start? I'm way beyond that. I need you to just listen. So I had that relationship going on. Anyway, at one point in time, she felt comfortable enough to say something about reincarnation. And I was like, well, then how come I don't remember that? She's, because when you pass through the river, your memories are erased. And I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I don't believe that at all. And I don't think that does anything to help me understand anything whatsoever. It's like, how does that change your life? The thing is, though, you look at that and go, that's you know what you're talking about there. You cross the river, the threshold, the Red Sea, the clashing rocks, the narrow gate, passing the river and having your memories gone. What it is the same teaching. It's a racing. So here's somebody that doesn't know that this is not real, that reincarnation isn't really true, that what's happening there is that it is doing the same thing that other material is doing. It's crossing a threshold and emerging on the other side purged. Those are the concepts we look for in the material. So there's nothing new in the reincarnation stories as far as that goes. That part depends on who's teaching the story. She was obviously referring to Greek myth, and that's not the origins of it anyway. So, all right, now in Abrahamic material, they don't do it, but it still is covered. And how do they do that? It's not that the term reincarnation is not used. The idea there is that there's one rebirth that happens after you die. So it's everything in between is encompassed in a different way. And if you were to start off and if you were to understand how to read the Bible conceptually, you would start off in Genesis and you would read from the creation story. Here's what you would read. If you could understand it, you would see that there are two creation stories and there are two first callings of Noah, and that two of those were added in, that they were not original. It started off with the 5 rivers, and it had Lilith in the background as the original parts of the story. I would say it was closer to the Enuma Elish from the Babylonians and Marduk. Marduk is the called hero there. Here we have Noah. It didn't have the 7-day creation story in the beginning. It just started off at the 5 rivers. And it went through, and it didn't have the descendants. It didn't have those dates in there. It went down to the need to destroy the earth, and then it went into the calling of Noah, where he had to call 2 of everything, and it continued on from there. Later on, as they needed to make the Bible bigger, the story's bigger, they're starting to carry it out to where one person gives birth to, there's a lineage. Instead of saying you yourself are going to be reincarnated, what we're doing instead is showing a lineage of God's people. What you don't know is that each one of those people is an iteration of you along the way. Okay, so you've got to know in the Abrahamic material that each time somebody dies and their offspring takes over, that represents your old self dying off and your new self taking over. That represents the rebirth. That's the same thing, held in a different sound. So they're doing the same thing. Each one of those is going through a healing process. When you get to Genesis, what I was saying as far as that 7-day creation, the lineage, the part of there's a calling of Noah that says bring 2 of everything. There's one that says bring 7 pairs of everything. That creation story is the creation of each human. That template is from my birth, telling me about cause and effect and cycles, and me naming things, and that I become a product of those, and that I'm going to have sin, and that time goes on, and that I become divided, and that I eventually become corrupted, is what it's telling me. And then the monomyth would begin when the Noah picks up and goes, and the flood starts over. That's the crossing of the first threshold. But in order to make those continue to be bigger and to hide the fact that they were doing it, they had to create analogs for that naked, unashamed, in the garden point, just before first sin. They needed to take that point right there and create bunches of analogs for it so that they could continue to repeat the cycle without it going back to Adam and Eve, naked, unashamed in the garden. Instead, it starts off as Sarai and Abram in a famine in Canaan. It is still us. We still are not consuming anything, and we are in a good place. Canaan is a good place. Adam and Eve, we were in the garden. We were happy. We were not covered. We had not yet consumed anything. We were in the garden. They're going to continue. So all of that stuff is getting added in. Once you can read the conceptual parts of it, you go, oh, I see the instruction sheet right there. You do. You see the inside of it. Okay, I don't know if that helps. The reincarnation that happens in the Bible is just, if you read through there, each one of the prophets is a called person on a monomyth. It just cycles monomyth, 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 monomyth. So they've got it covered in there. If you follow the Bible from start to finish, you're going to go through your reincarnation processes. You have to understand that that's a template thing. On the outside, that it's being carried in ways that are conceptually still carrying the teaching, but they don't sound like it to people that don't know how to grasp the conceptual idea that is nested in the mystical teaching. I edited this in. I'm sorry this is not very seamless. I forgot to ask this question, and I kind of actually go into talking about it. When you say the Bible in your new videos, what are you referring to? The standard 55-book Bible and Apocrypha? Have you been able to find a translation of the 88-book Ethiopian Bible? I only use the ones that I refer to here, the more common ones. I've downloaded some. I need them online in order to search them. I've got hard copies, but you go through and count. That's crazy. You have it in a Word format, and you just ask how many times this word appear, and it pops right up and shows you where it is, and you can see how it's used. So it's a much better tool to do it that way. So for word count, what I trust is honestly the King James Version, the oldest one, except that you have to pay attention to the source of it. If you get to day 7 and it says if it says day 7 3 different times, it repeats that, then that's the version I want to use. There are versions that say 7 days 2 times and then 6th day 1 time. It does not properly create the grid, and I don't use that one because I don't know what they've done. I just recognize right off the bat that those 3s and 7s that need to be there are not there right in the beginning of the Bible. So I don't want to use that one. It might be okay. There might be other things going on. It's just too big for one person to search it all. Now, Abrahamic material adds extra layering to it because it repeats. If you were to go through a Greek myth start to finish, there's one sequence. I am Jason, I'm on the call, but boom, there's an adventure. But if you want to continue to go adventure after adventure after adventure, something else has to happen. And that's typically what we have going on here, except that we don't want it to look that way. So what they're doing is an additional layering is repeating names and numbers as specific analogs that mean the same thing. However, they're giving us every clue necessary to do it. They're not hiding it. They're just encoding it. Okay, let me see if I can make some connections here. I'm advocating that first creation story, that 7-day creation, ends up with 7 sevens and 3s created right there because 7 is said 3 times, and that right there begins the growth of the analogs from there. But those ones are used. What does that end up representing? 7 and 3 right there. That is the point in time where I said that the Adam and Eve, the Sarai, Abram. So the beginning of the story has this pure form of self, male, female, outer, inner being. It's starting from a place in a story that sounds like it's people. When we get to Job, do we see the same thing? And I'm just grabbing that one. It's off the top of my head. I remember it. He has 3 7s and 3s, remember. 3 daughters and 7 sons. There it is. And he's pure. They do little things here that he makes sure everything is okay. This is somebody who is chosen, who is purifying and making sure that their inner self is resolved in the beginning before stuff goes wrong. It is a form as well. But you see the numbers right off the bat. 3 daughters, 7 sons, 7 days, 3, 7 days, 7 days, 7 day, 3. You will see the sequences begin just popping up. Reincarnation, that is a true thing, but that is not about coming back time and time again to get it to try again. That helps somebody live. It's about this life turning inward time and time again and going, I'm going to take care of this. I'm going to take care of that. I'm bothered about this. I believe that. I don't know why this is happening. I need to go examine that until that's okay. Whatever the things are that bother us, we continue to go back and resolve them if you want to find the kingdom of heaven within or nirvana. You don't have to. Read the Gospel of Philip. Some people went into the place and cleaned it out only partially while Jesus did it all completely, emerging everything and making it all go away. You can do what you want. You can do it partially or you can do it completely. And most people on the path do it at least partially. It should never end. I think if you arrive, you're done. I'm okay with the search. That's what gives me joy. The unknowing, the not having the answer. Gives me something to seek. Anyway, okay, those are my thoughts on reincarnation. And I see where it comes from, and there's a viable reason for it. On the template, it is going in again and again and again to heal yourself. Now figure out some way to put that in the population. Call it reincarnation. Oh, I'm just going to repeat the stories. Both of you guys are good. You got it covered. Yeah, you're all doing the same thing. When you say the Bible in your new videos, what are you referring to? The standard 55-book Bible and Apocrypha? Have you been able to find a translation of the 88-book Ethiopian Bible? Yeah, the Bible that I refer to generally is... Boy, I'm beginning to think, as I go through this stuff, that the King James Version for me might be the best thing to search with. I'm not sure about other versions that have come about, but that's because I found something in there that no one else has found or that I'm aware of. I'm sure people must know this in the background, but it's a highly secretive thing, and that is those number counts. I can find errors in there. And if you go to, for example, in the King James Version of the Bible comes from the Hebrew version. The Talmud, is that right? Yeah. Okay, and if you read through there and all the times in the Noah story, in that first story, what do we have? 7 is converted to 40. In 7 days, I will send rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So in 7 days, rain did come for 40 days and 40 nights. So right there, the 7 was made into 40. However, if you start looking through there, you'll see other things like, did you know Noah's name was said exactly 41 times? Should be 40. You're like, well, that's weird. That's these are these things that I talk about, the staccato. It's like, why do you repeat that so many times? That's how they're encoding the puzzle. As soon as you start seeing repeated words, bang, right there. The clues that I'm finding, at some point you're just assuming that, okay, I'm catching some things here that I'm going to continue to pursue. These repeating numbers, it looks like it's something. So you go ahead and just pursue that. And sure enough, something eventually emerges. And in some Bibles, you will see that in that first creation story, it's not gonna say 7 3 times. It's gonna say 7 twice and 6 one time. So right there, it's messed up. It's like, somebody took off. Right there, the grid doesn't start correctly. Those 7s and 3s do not take off. There's a variation in the Bible where when you're looking at something like, here's where they create analogs. If 7 is 1 and they want to create 1 out of 7, here's a couple of ways of doing it. Righteousness. You get to Sodom, and when God and Abraham are talking, righteous is said 7 times. Righteous just became that same point. When you get to, there's another technique. This one is a repeat technique. In the flood story, as they're making preparations, it is said 7. In 7 days, God will make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights. And then there's a couple of lines. And then in 7 days, he did make it rain for 40 days and 40 nights. So that doubling up is there. In 7 days, it's going to happen. In 7 days, it did happen. And you'll find that doubling up. Those are techniques that they're using in here verbally that are always going to be kind of repetitive. The righteous, would you do it for this many righteous? No, I would not do it for that many righteous. Would you do it for this many righteous? No, I would not do it for that many righteous. That repeating right there is the clue. We just didn't know it. So then right there at that Sodom story, by saying righteous 7 times, and then doubling up numbers each time you're saying it, you're taking righteous and making it into an analog, plus each number that it's doubling up with, 40, 40, 30, 30, 20, 20. Those are also becoming analogs. So now we're taking 7, righteous, 40, 30, 10. We just farmed an entire pile of analogs by doing that repeating process right there. Double check them by going to the lineage. People live 800 and 900 years, and you will see 800 said 7 times. You will see 900 said 7 times. And in doing that, so-and-so lived 930 years or 840 years. They're taking that 7 repeating right there in a grid system, and it doesn't become anything else. That 800 and 900s, they're never repeated again. They're only said that one time. So there's another technique. As long as it's said 7 times, each of the numbers that goes with it is also going to become an analog. Those are all the processes, and probably more. I'm not seeing them all. You go into each book downstream, and they're creating new analogs by doing something like maybe somebody is in a tent, and you go, tent is weird. Let me search that. Oh, tent is said 40 times in this document. Therefore, tent in this next book is the same analog for the 3 and the 7 and the 40s and righteous and covenant, all that stuff. Yeah. That's what the Jewish material is doing. Count 7 times that God is going to keep his covenant with Noah. 7. Covenant becomes the same thing as righteous. Covenant, 7, righteous, 3, 40, 30, 12, 10. All of them are becoming different analogs for the same thing. You know, in a ridiculously simple way, you could say something like, that is a car, that is a truck, that's a sedan, that's a sporty vehicle, that's a motorcycle, that's a lorry, that's a something here. Oh, we can even go into, that's a submarine. Oh, wow, that's different. That's a ship. There's an airplane. At some point you sit back and go, okay, what do all of they have in common? They all have their transportation. So that's what we're looking for in these stories. We're not looking for what is different and saying they're not the same. We're looking for what concept is in there that when we look at all of them, go, that's what they're doing. They're all holding the same concept that is beneath the words. Okay, so what we're always looking in the material is that there's a very small, compact teaching with analog after analog after analog after analog. How many ways can you put it? It was their gaming platform, their life, their guidance. It was everything. We have all kinds of technology to break it up. That was their life, their technology, their media, their guidance. It was everything all rolled up into one. It is psychologically complicated. If you look at it, you realize what they're doing, and you realize it is actually a simple puzzle. They're taking this template, turning it outward, and creating as many ways as they possibly can of repeating that template without it sounding like it's being repeated. At the same time, that outer shell is worded in such a way to control a population. It's simply freaking amazing. Okay, so at the end of the day, this is what I do to determine if something is viable. I have the Book of Enoch. If I go right into the Book of Enoch, I know that by now there are certain things that I am looking for. Let's just say, I've gotten advanced in the understanding of the conceptual manner of reading the first book of Enoch. The words of the blessings of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and the righteous pure in the beginning, who will be living in the day of tribulation. The day of tribulation is the day we decide we're going to go on our journey. Okay, so I'm going to repeat, the way that a myth works like this is that the Enoch becomes the consciousness of the individual that's going on the path. Enoch is, when this story is something that you become, when it plays out in your psyche, your conscious is Enoch. That is where you hook into. And then from there, all the other pieces and parts, God's the higher self. The component parts are life experiences and whatnot. But Enoch is, the consciousness that is going to be ready to go on the journey. Blessed is that person. That's a elect, not many, righteous, pure. That's that early. That comes from what we just covered. That elect is an important component in many stories. We see it right in Exodus, right in the beginning. We see it in Jesus as well. But as far as in Exodus, what do we have? Moses is put into a basket and is saved. He's elect. He's separated out. Jesus, before he could be, before death can happen, he's taken to Egypt actually to go off and live as a child. So we see elements in the stories where many are called, few are chosen, elect, saved out in a basket. You're going to have the understanding that while many people carry the ark, few see inside. The ark ends up being the metaphorical story, and seeing inside of it means understanding the conceptual template. So, in the material, it is telling us, in metaphor and analogs, that it is hiding within itself metaphor and analog, that there's a secret teaching in here, that it's being carried within there. And it's telling us in mystical ways that it is carrying that. We just have to apply it to the material. The story is the ark. Anything that's carrying the template is an ark. These are the kind of elements we're looking for. This person was somehow isolated early on out of the crowd. Many called, few chosen, right here. We'll be living in the day of tribulation. It's now time to turn inward, when all the wicked and godless people are to be removed from the earth, like destroying the earth, the corrupted beautiful daughters of men who got corrupted by God, the Nephilim, all that kind of stuff, which all represent our early hurt self, when it's time to go in and wipe things out. So right off the bat, I look at this and go, okay, it's sounding like a monomyth to start with. There's a calling right there, and it's setting it up. Then he began his story saying, I am Enoch, a righteous man. Okay, righteous, there it is again. In Jewish material, anytime you see righteous, it's going to refer back to that day 3, day 7, that pure point. When you are seeking and knocking for righteousness' sake, that's what you're looking for, that pure point. A righteous man whose eyes were opened by God, and who saw the vision of the Holy One in heaven. God is the higher awareness. We are the people who can connect to the higher self and go, okay, yeah, this part of me out here exists outside of my emotions. I see what's going on. Use me. Do you know I'm here? This is what's happening. You are now waking up and learning that part is there. Saw the vision of the Holy One in heaven. This is the higher realm of our own mind, above our pain, shame, hurt, the things that we've clung on to. And I heard everything from them, and I saw and understood, but it was not for this generation to know, but for a remote one which is to come. So, yeah, this is your future self. You're going to begin cycling. The future generation is you. Okay, and then it goes on and it says, and the eternal God will tread on the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear in the strength of his might, even from heaven. Okay, what we're doing is creating a story for the population while we're nesting the idea that there is a higher awareness that is going to be emerging. If you're on the template and you want to make this mentally interactive, you have to stop looking outward for that God and look inward for this God that you can talk to. What is that? Stand out here outside of your emotions. Wake up at 3 a.m, tossing and turning, frazzled about something, and there's one part of you once in a while going, you know what? You got to go to sleep. There's nothing you can do right now. That part right there doesn't feel anything, but you get sucked right back up into it. That is the higher, that's what we want to get involved with. And the eternal God will tread on the earth, even on Mount Sinai. This is the internal, we're going to tread on earth. Earth is the physical self. It's time to bring the higher self to begin working on the physical experiences. Right off the bat, I look through this, and it's going to come down and do other things, and it's going to talk about, where do we have, observe everything that takes place in the sky, how the lights do not change their orbits, and luminaries which are in heaven, and how they all rise and set in order in each season, proper time, and do not transgress or defy their appointed order. Everything moves in cycles. Right there, we got our cycles. You know, more than that, if you think about it, it has the seasons in there as well. Not only does it say that everything cycles, but it continues to maintain its order. So if you were translating it to a life experience, that everything that cycles from your self has its own season. It continues. Yeah, that's it right there. Everything under heaven has a season and a purpose. It's driven by cause and effect, and it's going to cycle. consider the earth and understand the things which take place on it from start to finish, how steadfast they are, how none of the things on the earth change, but all of the works of the God appear to you. Everything that manifests cycles. All right, it's saying that all of that will appear to you, which means it's going to manifest, but it also says that it's, by God given. Where else would we see that? Right in the beginning of Abram and Sarai, where it says, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. This is all internal. What this means is that we have the power, based on the decisions that we make when we have an experience, to use God to create good or to create bad. It's not really God. It's the conservation of energy. You start off with nothing there. Then you put something there. You've grabbed energy from someplace and created something. You've created this shame, this anger, this hatred, and you keep it powered from what? From God. God gives good, God gives bad. That's what this means here when God gives it to you and it doesn't matter what it is. Yeah, that's why. Cause and effect. Behold the summer and the winter, how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie on it. Summer and the winter, this is our life, the summer and the winter of our life experience. Anyway, if I go through here, I recognize that this is a monomyth teaching, and it's going to go on and create a bad person that has to get put away, and they're going to get stored away forever, rendered useless, which represents the idea of having your memories changed so that they are now trapped away, which represents the idea that, yeah, that happened to me one time and it used to destroy my life. It no longer does. That memory is still there, but it no longer has power. I read this and go, there's a monomyth. I can come into something like the lost scriptures. You mentioned apocryphal works. And I could read something like The Shepherd of Hermas. It's an interesting one because it sounds different, and it's not going to sound like a Christian work. The one who raised me sold me to a certain woman named Rhoda in Rome. After many years, I regained her acquaintance and began to love her as a sister. Okay, this is weird, but what we're looking at is something that so far sounds familiar. There's a separation of conscious and inner self. The male-female role in these, in this material. The material from this time, the male and female, typically represents the conscious and the inner self, the collection of who and what we are, the stuff that acts out. That's why the woman sins, right? It's not because in life the woman sins. It's because everybody's inner self contains the hurt that continues to act out. That's what's really happening. So as we read this, the one who raised me sold me to a certain woman named Rhoda in Rome. So that means I somehow went off to become, I don't know what. I'd have to read more. I regained her acquaintance and began to love her as a sister. When time had passed, I saw her bathing in the Tiber River, and I gave her my hand to help her out of the river. I observed her beauty. So we want to connect with this inner self. This is a reconnection with the goddess. If you're looking at Campbell's monomyth material, I am not, but that is what that is. We're reconnecting with something internally. I would be fortunate to have my wife of such a beauty and character, all this in my mind and nothing else. So what we want to do is we want to have a marriage with our inner self in some material, and this is sounding like it's doing that. I don't know yet. When some time had passed, I was traveling to the countryside, glorifying the creations of God and thinking how great, remarkable, and powerful they are. So time is going by. That's an element. On the way, I fell asleep, and a spirit took me and carried me through a certain deserted place that was impassable. We're crossing a threshold. For the place was steep and split up by the courses of water. Then I crossed the river, came to the level... monomyth, right here. Okay, watch another one. That was the Shepherd of Hermas. You see the elements that are in there. You go through there and you read the story, but it is on a template that you're going to see common elements happening. I'm going to find something in here that sounds radically different. This is the letter of Barnabas. I got to get to the beginning of it here. Greetings, sons and daughters, in the name of the Lord, who loved us in peace. Okay, there's not a called person there. So great and abundant are the righteous acts of God toward you that I am exceedingly overjoyed beyond measure by your blessed and glorious spirits. for you have received such a measure of his grace planted within you, the spiritual gift. So this is starting off not talking about being separated, divided, righteous, or anything. This is starting off saying, bless you Christians, you look wonderful, you act good. And so I share your joy all the more within myself, hoping to be saved, for truly I see that in your midst the Spirit has been poured out upon you from the abundance of the Lord's fountain. So amazed have I been by the sight of your face, which I have so desired. Okay, I'm not seeing anything about cause and effect, separation, male, female, crossing thresholds. Nothing like that is coming up in here so far. This sounds like you people in the church, you're wonderful. I can't wait to join you. And so, since I have been persuaded about this, and realize that I who have spoken to you know many things, since the Lord has traveled along with me in the path of righteousness, I have also felt fully compelled to love you more than my own soul. No, you can never love anything more than your own soul. That's not good. You go through them and you process them and you find monomyths and you find stuff that is not in apocryphal material. But you have to understand it. I'm not worried about finding all the books. I'm more worried about being able to read what is in that story itself. So I don't know if that helps or not. I think that there's a point where I'm not finding different things. What I'm finding is that there are people who know that template and they are writing stories on it in the background. There are many of them. But there are people in Christianity in particular, or in religions, that come along that don't know the template is there. The Book of Mormon would be like that Barnabas one right there. Somebody that doesn't know the template's there and is just writing a religion. You go through there and that template does not exist. The threshold crossing, all of that sort of stuff is not there. That one is just an outer shell that is not made on the template. Same here. There are times that a Christian writing a book about the glory of God and the wonder of God that has no idea this template is there would write a book like that. It is something that they would call inspired, because the feeling of it and because the glory and the graces and all that sort of stuff. But it basically is just somebody's supernatural beliefs that they feel so strongly about, that they have wonder in that. Somebody else isn't going to feel the same thing. And it doesn't cover the core teaching of self-healing. It really teaches the relinquish to an outer instead of turn inward to heal. It is not converted to the correct direction. It's still facing outward. Lay yourself up treasures where? They're all on earth. Everybody worshiping supernatural, many are the ways outside the narrow gate that lead to destruction. When you turn inward, there's only one pathway. There's only one, and that's a personal path of healing. And everybody has that same path. You don't take different paths when you're doing that. One person doesn't say, I'm going to go and forgive whoever hurt me so that I feel better. And somebody else goes, well, I'm going to go kill a bunch of other people as my means of doing it. Those are not the same way, and they're not, one way is not right. One way is right. Turning outward and hurting other people is not the right way to do it. Turning inward and destroying the enemies within is always the right way to do it. And everybody has enemies within. When everybody destroys the enemies within, we're doing the same thing. When we're looking outward and destroying enemies, we're all different. We're tribal. Okay, I hope that helped. All the subjects. Yeah, those are my thoughts on it. I put a lot of thought into this, but it's really a mind process at some point that you're just thinking through this stuff when people say things. It doesn't take long to, you at some point, what questions to ask to pull things along to quickly expose or not, whether you're onto something or not. And the books of Enoch are all apocryphal works. All works from antiquity, not just Jewish and Christian and Abrahamic, anything Abrahamic. Whether it's been certified or proved by the church or not, don't listen to the church. They teach the outer shell. They have no idea what's inside. Actually, I guarantee you the Pope does. They know better. And we know that because all throughout the New Testament they maintained the monomyth. They're teaching the very monomyth. They're telling you to just worship the very person that's teaching it. So, but at the same time, they included the teaching. They knew what they were doing. They absolutely know. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, as far as tarot cards, all that kind of stuff, I think people are looking for answers. You get little bits and hints and things like that here. I wouldn't put any viability into it. Even if you get something once in a while that's fun, it's more like I don't know, a high school kegger party kind of activity or something like that. That and the Ouija board. I remember being a kid and seeing the Ouija board on a TV commercial or something. I think my brothers and I were, oh, cool, I like that or something. What I can remember is my mom saying, I don't remember exactly, but it was like, oh yeah, that's evil, demonic, kind of devils kind of stuff. And you're like, well, I don't even get that. Anyway, so I went up there as a gift. I've never used one in my life. I don't even care to. I know what they're about. There's no connection to anything evil out there. We're just trying to figure out how to communicate in this mystical realm. And I think that the mystical realm is simply a natural realm that is mystical because we don't understand it, and because our lives have become so complicated. We get such small glimpses and bits and pieces of it that we think it's just something magical, haunting, just right beyond our reach that's there, when actually it's something that's natural, that's there, that we're in all the time, and that sometimes we become aware of it, and other times we're just going right through it. And things are happening, and if bad things keep happening, I mean, there's a point. It's hard to figure out what's going on. We get in loops. I've had some tough times in life. So it's hard to remember how to get out of some of it. So it's hard to work through sometimes the things that you have to come through. I won't make any bones about that. But I don't think that any kind of, like the tarot and any of that kind of stuff is in any way, shape, or form something to turn to for anything more than, occasional recreational laugh or something to do on a camping trip because it's, it's raining outside. You're sitting in the tent, done playing solitaire. Just do something else. Yeah, fine. But as far as anything serious, no. The serious stuff is to look at sit. How do you feel? Do you know why you feel that way? Probably so. Stuff that's bad. You might not. You might just go, I don't know. I just feel bad. Find out why you feel bad and start working on that stuff right there. That is clearing out the mote from one's eye. It's resolving the issues that keep us from feeling good. Then everything else begins to happen automatically. You don't need any of those other tools to try and find an end around. You're opening up the eye and it just starts happening naturally. You're not sitting there like The Secret going, forget that stuff. Just try to wish your way around it. You're doing what the material says. If you want a good life automatically in secret, without trying, then go resolve the ought. Don't forget that stuff and wish your way around it. Go resolve it, and it won't be in your way. How come The Secret? How come they make millions of dollars off of a video and you can't teach the truth that's been around forever? Right in the material, right here, all along. The truth is not popular. It never is. I see that. I'm honestly surprised that it's this unpopular. Yeah. And that might just be a credibility issue. Today, everybody, I should change my name to Doctor or something and then put that up. PhD Professor Paulson. I'll change my first name to Professor. Yeah, Professor Paulson. Then people will start watching the videos because you got a name up there. I think most people with degrees, I don't give them much credibility. Unless they got a scalpel and they're working on me. I will then. If it's somebody standing there saying, get on your knees, son. My degree certifies me to understand this Bible like nobody else. I tell them, get out of my face. That degree is worthless. That's a supernatural Hogwarts degree right there. You don't know what's in there. You're teaching the shell, your version. Is that what your degree got you? Well, anyway, I go on about that just because of frustration of not finding there's people that George, I know he's out there. He's getting this. There's other people that are. They kind of come and go. There's lives lived out there that. Yeah, there's actually more than there's a handful of friends. But anyway, okay, this was just kind of a random ramble there. I appreciate Bernie's questions. We've talked a bit, and I'm doing yard work, so I missed his call the other day, and he sent that instead. It's like, oh, let me just make a video then. That actually would be better instead of talking to you on the phone. Kind of throw some stuff out there and get some more different ideas on the table. I wouldn't normally put up a video on reincarnation or anything like that. I have in the past. I put stuff up that's way long ago, given my thoughts on that, the third eye and things like that. They're all a part of this process. That third eye is exactly what we're talking about, this massive stuff that we view through. That's the third eye. When we clear that out, we see clearly. Western goofballs will tell you what, to get the calcium out of your water. No, the fluoride, that's it. The fluoride in your water. Meanwhile, you go out in the Midwest where everybody's drinking well water with no fluoride, and you wonder why they're not all psychic. Yeah, people don't think. Really, it's a natural process. Simplify life. And find ways of so that even if you're busy in life, find ways that your mind isn't busy. You could have a simple life, but your mind is so frazzled you can't enjoy the simplicity. The mind has to be cleared out. And it comes from our experiences in life that are unresolved. We have to resolve those. Then they will not be a factor anymore. Everything else is just fun stuff to do. Books, yeah. There's a template. That's all fun stuff to study. I recommend everybody go after it. I love going through things like that and going, okay, yeah, this one. It's like like a little treasure hunt through antiquity. And you know what? We all have access to it right in our own libraries. We don't have to travel the world for this. It's in the material. It's in the stories. They were telling them verbally by memory. They are in the stories. Not in a classroom. All right, Bernie, take care. Everyone else, hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.